You guys, I've been doing comedy for about like 6 years now. And every time I tell someone I do comedy, they always have the same reaction like, oh, Luke, you're a comedian? You do comedy? You're a stand-up comedian? You do comedy? Tell me a joke, Luke. You're a comedian? Tell me a joke. It's like that wouldn't happen with any other profession. Like if I told someone I was a cardiothoracic surgeon, they wouldn't be like, oh, you're a cardiothoracic surgeon? You're a surgeon? You're a cardiothoracic surgeon? Do a laparoscopic appendectomy. You're a surgeon? Do a laparoscopic appendectomy right now.
Hi, I'm Luke Metzidakis. I'm 18 years old. I'm originally from New York. I'm currently living in Reno, Nevada. I'm a student at the Davidson Academy and at the University of Nevada, Reno, where I'm mainly studying philosophy. And starting next semester in August, I'll be a student at Harvard College in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
We went to an artist retreat. It was kind of an open forum where like 50 or 60 people gathered to exchange, to share what they had been doing for these last few days. People read their poems, or they played the music they'd composed, or whatever it was they had been working on. They shared it in this just open forum, and Luke just got up in front of 50 adults, and he walked to the front of the room. He sat down, he crossed his legs, and he started telling jokes, and he owned the room. Nobody could. This 7-year-old. Right, just sitting in front of the room, relaxed as can be, just telling jokes, and it was quite something. I mean, nobody had ever seen a kid do something like that before.
I got started with comedy pretty young. The first time I did a proper stand-up set, I was 12 years old. I was living in New York, and my dad had introduced me to George Carlin, so I fell down this massive YouTube rabbit hole and just kind of kept digging and fell in love with all these comedians, Trevor Noah, Taylor Tomlinson. I got really into it. And then I learned that there were these workshops for young kids who wanted to get into stand-up comedy at this club called the Gotham Comedy Club in New York City. So I started going and learning to write sets and perform, and then did my first show, and I loved it, and so I kept going.
No, I started looking back at my childhood too. And I found myself thinking about my childhood crush. Do you guys remember your childhood crush? Yeah. Yeah, of course you do. I remember my childhood crush like it was yesterday.
The first open mic I ever did here was at the Blind Onion, I think in Sparks. And I had just done like a school talent show at the Davidson Academy, and I had written a set for it. And so I go to this open mic, and I'd never really been to an open mic full of a whole bunch of adults with like no censorship. I was, 15, 16. I show up, and the guy who's there's lots of adult jokes and stuff, but then the guy who goes up before me talks about snorting meth off a dumpster. And then after that, I had to go up and say, hey, how many people here have read Harry Potter? Which was not the mood of the room at all. And I tried to sort of
Luke was always really precocious from day one. I think Phil and I didn't even realize how precocious because, I don't know, maybe because we're in a family of fairly precocious people. He was very verbal, so he loved words and language and wordplay very early on. How old was he, Phil? Maybe about 3 or 4 when we were at your Aunt Bessie's. And he and I, we went out on a walk and came back to her house. And he said, Aunt Bessie, you have very nice property. So this wasn't like something that a 3-year-old would normally say, or he was...
Well, I mean, Luke has always been a student. From the beginning, when we got reports from, the written reports in elementary school, they would be filled with comments like, Luke is meticulous about doing his homework. Right? He would never, he's at Davidson now. He's asked for 2 extensions in 4 years. And he's taken an enormously intense load. He's graduating with 11 UNR courses, 7 of which are cross-listed as graduate level courses. So he's going to college already taken 7 grad school classes and he's a 4.0 student, right? So he's gotten A's in all of that. So it's basically just, we've stood back a little bit in awe. It's like, I see it as kind of a responsibility. You have a kid who's that gifted. You just support them, which is why we moved to Reno.
At first, I really came here for Davidson, and I didn't think about Reno in terms of much else, I guess, when I first got here. And then I met people and made friends and made connections and relationships at UNR, met so many people, had relationships. So I think it changed from kind of a place I was going for an opportunity to a place that has an opportunity that I'm going to, if that makes sense. I ended up really enjoying my time here. I think my family are really the ones to thank for my ambition, for my wish to do comedy. They've been nothing but supportive and have always told me to chase my dreams and have always helped me with my dreams and encouraged me to think about what I want to do and why I want to do it. So I grew up around that culture, and I also grew up in a house where banter and tell jokes, and it was, I grew up around that. I grew up being taught to be funny and have dry humor and make droll jokes and critique things. I grew up being told to question everything. So comedy and social critique sort of came a little naturally to me because that's sort of how I was brought up and how I was encouraged to think my whole life. Yeah.
Well, I often think, and I often say, and I've said to Luke that, not only is he brilliant, he's just like the most grounded, sane, balanced, and kind person that I know. And I feel really lucky to, be in his life and be his mom and be around that. And so I know that in addition to his ambitions and whatever it is he wants to do, like professionally in the world, I also, wish for him and feel confident that he will find every sort of personal, happiness. As we haven't talked about, like, in addition to all of the exciting academic pursuits and comedy, one of my wishes for him is that he, goes forth and, finds his people on the East Coast, because that's really important, and all of us need that.
So it's just going to Harvard and leaving this house, right? It's just, he'll go into the world. And I'll just say this on a personal note, just a kind of a note. I'm Greek and Armenian, and there's a Greek blessing. When a child is born, people say, Nasa zithi to pedi, which means may the child make you proud. And Luke, I'm getting a little emotional. Luke has never not made me proud.